Hello and welcome to Applying Java. This is SciGuy1121. Applying Java is a series of tutorials in which I teach basic Java users how to apply their knowledge in more useful manners. This video is part 2 of a series of tutorials in which I teach you how to create a basic calculator. So, in the last tutorial, we set up a basic input system. What we are going to do in the long run is create a GUI so that the user can actually interact with the program without having to have direct console access. However, the logic of the program will stay the same. So in this tutorial, I'm going to finish working on the logic of the program, and in the next few tutorials, I will continue to I will begin to and finish implementing the GUI. So the first thing we're going to want to do is inside of our main.java class, this is under source com.sciguy1121.source, we're going to create a new method, and this will be public static void display answer. Again, static is a modifier you can apply to a method to make it accessible directly from the class it's in. Directly from the class it's in, as opposed to requiring to create an object. So it's going to be public static void display answer, and the parameters are going to be double. I cannot type today. Double answer. Now, this method will have a bit more use later on once we actually implement the GUI. However, for now, all we're going to do is say system dot... Oh, no, Frodo, be quiet. Sorry, my dog is barking a little bit. So all we're going to... Frodo, be quiet. All we're going to do is say system.out.println, and we're just going to put in the answer variable. Sorry about my dog barking in the background. Now, that's all we're going to want to do for now inside of our main class. Inside our calculator class, however, we're going to be working for the rest of the video. So, inside of our calculate method, we currently have the parameter be a string input. Please forgive my dog barking. The parameter is a string input, and what we're going to want to do is pass the program a string of values. Each value is going to be separated by a colon. Now, the reason we're going to do this is, the reason it's separated by a colon I will explain in a little bit, but the reason we're going to pass it in a string is so that we can implement later on more complicated expressions. For now, we're just going to implement 5 basic operations. This is going to be addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, and exponential functions. Or not exponential functions, just exponents. So, what we're going to want to do inside of our calculate method is first put in something called a try-catch statement. For those of you who don't know, a try-catch statement is a way you can implement error finding. And the way we do this is we type try, and then these little curly braces, and then after them, catch. And the parameter for the catch is exception E. And then we need to have something inside the catch statement. So I'm going to say system.error. So system.err.println, and we'll say invalid operation. Now, what this does, if you were to run our program without a try-catch statement, and the user were to, say, pass in a letter instead of a number, it would terminate the program and basically crash the program. Now, what this try-catch statement enables us to do is it will attempt to run anything between this try and the closing curly brace, And if it encounters an error, then it will go to the catch statement. In this case, it will run an error message saying invalid operation. This is useful if you expect, say, user input, which might not always be perfect, and you don't want to crash the program on your user if they have a slight mistake. So now that we've implemented the try-catch statement, we can begin actually creating our logic. So the first thing we're going to want to do is create a string array. So string, and then brackets, and we're going to call this parts. Now, again, an array is simply a variable that can hold multiple values. Now, we're going to say parts equals input dot split, and what this, and actually, let me finish this up. We're going to split it with the input being a string with only a colon. Now, what the split method does is it basically takes a string and it will look for whatever is passed in. In this case, it will look for a colon, and when it finds that, it will cut out that part of the string and put it inside of an array. In this case, the parts array. So now we're going to say double A equals double capital D dot parse double, and we'll say parts 0. So the way that our input is going to work is we will have a number and then a colon, the operation, colon, another number. So what a double is, as opposed to an integer, is the double is going to allow us to use decimal places as opposed to having to use whole numbers. What double.parseDouble does is it simply takes a string input and turns it into a double. And then this parts 0 is going to access the very first instance in our array and turn it into a double, and then and then store this in the variable A. Now we're going to create double B equals double with a capital D dot parse double, and we'll say parts 2. Parts 1 is going to be our operation. So finally, we're going to say double answer equals 0 for now, and then string op is short for operation, equals parts 1. So the operation will be the second variable stored in parts, and the second number will be the third variable stored in parts. Now you'll see it's giving us errors because we haven't used these variables, but we are going to right now. Now, what we're going to want to do is create an if statement, but this if statement is going to be formatted a little bit differently than you might expect. Many of you probably know the basic if statement, where you have if, and then you have expression, and then you have brace, and then a block of code, and then another brace. Now this can be a little bit inefficient if you have only a single line of code that you want to run in the if statement. So one thing we can do, and that is what I am going to do now, is we can say if, and then we'll have our expression, and then the line below it is what we'll run. So if expression, then run this code, and then we'll have the colon after it, and that is the end of the if statement. So we're going to say if op.equals, and it'll say plus, then we're going to want to run, actually, let me explain this. If you are going to compare a string or two strings, then you actually have to say the string dot equals. You cannot use the basic equal equal, because strings are a little bit more complex than numbers when the computer compares them. So if op.equals plus, we're going to assign answer the value add, which is a method we will create later, a comma b. And then we'll just continue creating our if statement. So else if op dot equals a dash, then answer equals subtract a comma b, else if op dot equals, and then we'll have an asterisk for multiplication, answer equals multiply a comma b, else if op dot equals, and then a forward slash for division, then answer equals divide a comma b, and then finally we're going to say else if op dot equals, and for exponentials or exponents we're going to have a caret, then answer equals exponent a comma b. Now this code, source code is in the description if you want to use that, will enable you to add however many operations you want. I'm going to add these 5 because they're the basic operations you need in mathematics. Now, we could go through and type by hand every single method. And I will actually type the first add method. What we're going to want is we're going to want it to be private because no other classes are going to access it. So private double, it's going to return a double variable, add, and the parameters are double A, double B. And we're just going to say return A plus B. It's a little bit simple and redundant. We could just say answer equals A plus B right here, but it's, again, I'm just trying to put model code if you want to sort of add to it later. However, this private double add right here, if we were to type all of this out, it would take a little while. Something we can do, since we're using Eclipse, or at least I'm assuming you're using Eclipse, is we can just go away. We can just hover over subtract and say create method subtract. Now, since we're assigning it to the variable answer, which is a double, it's going to automatically make it return a double. And we can just say A minus B right there. I'm going to do the same thing for multiply, divide, and exponent. Now, for multiply and divide, I'm going to delete these auto-generated method stubs. It's pretty simple. We're just going to say A times B. And then for divide, it is simple as well. We can say A forward slash B, or A divided by B. But then for the exponent, we're going to need to do something a little bit more complicated, although not by much. We're going to actually need to return math with a capital M, dot, and it's going to be POW, or which is short for power, and then A, comma B. Now this math.power function, or method, not function, sorry, what it does is it will basically do the first variable to the power of the second variable. Now what we're going to want to do is at the very end of the method here, actually I'm going to put it right above the catch statement, we're going to say main dot, and this is what I mean by static methods can be accessed only by using the class. We don't have to create an object, so we can just say the class name dot display answer. Now let's test it out. So if we hit play, it'll say input operation. If we say 1 colon plus colon 2, it'll say 3.0. If we do 3 colon caret, so to the power of 67, it'll give us 9. It'll give us basically a variable in scientific notation. So 9.2709, etc., E31. 3 to the power of 67 is a massive number. That is going to be the end of this video. Source code is, as usual, in the description. In the next few videos, we will actually set up the GUI so that users can interact with our program without going through some kind of terminal. So thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe for more, and I will see you next time.